Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back. I'm your host, PattSun, and today we're gonna be taking a look at r/surviving infidelity, where a cheating wife is now regretting being a hoe. Let's begin. My cousin was naked in front of my boyfriend. Posted by Reddit user Occultra.
TLDR, my cousin got naked in front of the back door to our vacation home when my boyfriend was walking into the house. Context: my family goes on yearly trips together consisting of my two cousins, my two aunts, uncle, my mother and I. This year, I could not drive down with them as I had a big test at college. My boyfriend offered to drive me down and take a few days off from work, which my family agreed with because they did not want to single me out. My cousins were okay with him sleeping in the same room as us. For context, the downstairs of the house is our domain. We have a big bedroom, a bathroom at the end of the hallway, and the back door that leads to the beach. Before the incident, for context, Cousin R was wearing tank tops without bras, which is her normal, but she was pushing out her boobs or stretching where the bottom of her boobs would show. Wore bottoms that showed her ass and would ride up whenever she bent down. Conveniently now realized always in front of my boyfriend. Even Cousin B said something to me about it. However, I didn't think much about it because R is like my sister. R started demanding my boyfriend to get her charger or take her to Target, or badgering him about why her own boyfriend doesn't do XYZ. Cousin B talked to me about how Cousin R was always just talking to my boyfriend, but never really acknowledged us. I just brushed it off, saying she's just trying to get to know him better, as this is the first time he's been really around my family in the almost 2 years we've been dating. Cousin R was usually hanging out with her boyfriend and bails when we ask to hang out or we go to dinner with my family. The incident: Cousin R, my boyfriend, and I went to the beach, swam in the ocean, and headed back. R was ahead of us by 15 to 20 feet. As my boyfriend opens the glass back door, R took off her bikini top and she already had no bikini bottoms. She goes, "Oh no D, look away," and giggles and rushes to the bathroom. I am like, what just happened, as I did not see as D was in front of me. R told me D saw me naked as I was changing, and I was like, WTF. He promised me he did not see anything. I highly doubt that, but I pulled her aside, asked her what that was about, and she got mad at me for badgering her for an accident. Now, D has pulled me to the side and told me he does not feel comfortable around her and was avoiding her for the rest of his time, which did not work because she would sit right next to him or right in front of him. This was 2 days ago, but I reached my boiling point tonight. She got annoyed with her mother telling her off for buying 10 shirts, making no room in her suitcase. She threw her headset, the over-the-ear kind, towards my way, which knocked over my brush water, spilling on the painting I was doing, which smeared it. I immediately went, seriously, are we 5 years old? She went off saying it's always about me, that I'm a fucking bitch, yada yada. That's when I brought up her being naked in front of D again. Of course, her mother and my other aunt said I was overreacting and that it was an accident because R started crying and accusing me of lying. I have to share a bedroom tonight and hotel room with her tomorrow. I don't know how to go about this.
OP, all I can say is just tolerate it for now and then go minimal contact with your cousin after. She sounds very toxic and immature for an adult. It looks like she is the type of person who likes drama and would do anything to cause some. And now for today's second story. My fault, I cheated. Posted by Reddit user Ordinary Base.
I had a relationship for 9 years and we got married a little over a year ago. Things were beautiful when we were together, but I had a secret I never could tell him. I lost my mother and came into my sexuality shortly before we met 9 years ago. I had compartmentalized everything that was tough and have always wanted to please people. I am trying to understand now and admit I even made small lies when I was little. I cheated when we were apart at the beginning. I moved around a lot for my job. I don't know if it was needing comfort or part of me wondering if we would stay together, but I did. When I came home to him, things were so perfect together and I was selfish. I didn't tell him. There are details of things we worked through, but I will spare some. We stayed together but were essentially long distance for most of our relationship. We would see each other primarily on the weekends. It was absolutely beautiful together. I accepted every insecurity and imperfection he had. He was honest. We were long distance and I rationalized my sexual fantasies, and my love for him were different. I downloaded apps and cheated when we were apart, probably 10 times. It was never emotional or romantic. I doubt anyone can ever believe me, but I know this truth. I always loved him and truly accepted every part. I lied because I had lied before and I rationalized why I did it. It was built so far from my control. He asked and I lied. We would talk about others who went through infidelity and I sat there and only gave him reassurance. I would feel overwhelmingly guilty at times but knew it would shatter him, his world and everything he believed in, so I tried to lock it up so far from my consciousness. We were in therapy together because I tried to tell a little of the truth. I texted someone. I promised myself I would never do it again and thought I could rebuild with therapy. We lived together for the past few months, which was supposed to be the start of us finally being together. I got drunk and horny and texted 2 people I know inappropriate things when I was gone a weekend for a wedding. He found the text messages and asked me. I admitted I had cheated. He left. In a letter I admitted everything with nothing to save any dignity. He read the letter. He called me to ask why I put the pain on him. I told him I had to be honest, that's all I can do now. He has since moved in with friends. He has a big support group. I do not. I recently moved across the country. About a week later he said that he was filing for divorce. He will live by his values. He was open even with insecurities and I held this secret from him. It's been a few weeks. Essentially no contact outside of a few logistical emails on divorce and lawyers. Everything has been disconnected from the life we built. All assets and properties and every photo album we shared. I turned his whole worldview to pieces. I'm lost. I've finally admitted everything myself and trying to really understand the reasons. I've been in therapy myself, trying to reconcile how my actions were so far from my own values. How I could hurt the person I care about most, my best friend. How do I survive? Trying to admit that I am still a good person with the fact of what I did, knowing how beautiful he is, understanding his values and the betrayal and knowing he will never come back. Never talk to me again. I am trying to truly understand. I am so scared that I am the worst person in the world, a serial cheater, and I should feel this shame and guilt forever as my punishment. I will always love him. I have tried to hate anything, but those were only the things I loved. I've admitted that I cannot not love him, and I know the only thing I can do to truly love him is to let him go. It's such a hard reality knowing I did this to myself, knowing I did this to him, knowing he is gone forever, will block me and never talk to me again so he can rebuild a life that he thought he had. I am struggling so much now. I don't know where else to begin but to be honest. I am strong and know I need to work on myself, but even that feels contradictory to how selfish I was throughout our whole relationship. I don't know anything most of the time. I get so stuck in thoughts. I am a person who changes and is able to see through things, but even my world is so upside down. I don't know.
OP, you have betrayed your husband. You have inflicted a trauma upon him that will take him years to recover, but will never truly heal from it. You say that you love him and feel guilty, yet all I read in your post is me, me, me. Oh, woe is me. You don't even regret what you did. You just regret that you have to suffer the consequences. You are one incredibly selfish dickhead. May you live your life lonely and miserable. And now for today's final story. Am I the asshole for reverse revenge cheating? Posted by Reddit user Angry Babyfish.
I am telling this story as it occurred at the ripe age of 19. I had a dream about it recently and it's got me thinking about it again, so here it is. When I was 19, I got my first boyfriend and boy was I head over heels for this man. I felt I truly loved him and wanted to be with him for the rest of my life. I was 19, he was your average run-of-the-mill blonde hair blue-eyed douchebag. But he was hot and sleeping with him was the best I'd ever had at that point. We dated for about 6 months or so. During that time he cheated on me with a total of 5 girls and one guy who was previously my best friend in high school. I mean, he did me so dirty. I spent $200 on a Valentine's Day gifts for him 1 year. He turned around and re-gifted them to one of the girls he was cheating on me with. He assigned each girl a fake guy name and would ask me to drop him off at their houses regularly, unbeknownst to me of course. It reached a point that he would take my car to go see them while I worked or slept. Eventually I found out, but ultimately took him back every time because I was genuinely hooked on him, no matter how badly he treated me. I wouldn't admit the true reason to myself until years later, but the reason why. In short, it was very, very big. This all came to light one beautiful summer's day. My best friend attended a birthday party for her nephew at a relative's home. I received a Snapchat photo of my boyfriend walking in with a new girl on his arm, who was also related to the birthday boy. She introduced him to everyone as her boyfriend. The photo I received was captioned, "Girl, you are not going to believe what I just witnessed." Cue meltdown. I took it well, I think. I didn't hold any grudges against anyone except for him. Ultimately, these other people owed me absolutely nothing. He owed me his loyalty, simple as that. He rationalized his behavior by gaslighting me and saying that we were never technically in a relationship, which is technically true. We agreed on not putting a label on things, but we agreed on being exclusive, expressed our love for each other regularly, etc. We were dating, but without actually calling it dating. Regardless, he continued a relationship with his new girl. This girl then went out of her way to harass me for months and basically rub her relationship in my face. She would call me unrestricted to say really mean things to me, poke fun at the fact that I am black and they're both white on social media, talk about how he would never be with a insert racial slur, things of that nature. I mean, she really had it out for me despite the fact that I never did or said anything wrong to her. Eventually, my ex moves to another state and they continue a long-distance relationship. One day the new girlfriend called me to berate me with insults, which resulted in me audibly crying on the phone, to which she and her friends laughed at me and continued to humiliate me until I finally hung up. That was my breaking point. I decided at that moment that I would crush her false confidence by any means necessary. My ex, being the scum that he is, tried to stay in contact with me. I ignored him until I hatched my plan, then I began talking to him again. He told me he missed me and wanted to see me, and honestly, I was dying for a little closure. So I agreed to drive 4 hours each way to pick him up and bring him back to our hometown. Upon arrival, we hooked up immediately in my back seat. We spent the next few days together at my place, being absolute jackrabbits. As much as I hated him, that was the one part I really missed. But don't worry, I had ulterior motives. On the second to last day he was there, he asked me to take him to his girlfriend's house. She had no idea he was in town. We arrived at her apartment complex and hooked up in the parking lot before he went inside. He spent a day with her, then I took him back home the following day, which included 2 to 3 more quick sessions during the drive. The 4-hour drive quickly turned into 6. I blocked him on all social media immediately after leaving his house. Finally, I could put my plan into action. Every single time I slept with him, I secretly took a photo of him for proof of the act. I had amassed more than a dozen photos and one particular video where I made him admit that I was the best he'd ever had. 6 years later, this is still true. He still tries to contact me for this reason. I then calmly made a Facebook status detailing every part of the last week I spent with him, attached all of the photos, and put emphasis on some of the awful things his girlfriend said to me previously. I tagged her in it and waited for the eruption. It didn't take long. I watched her scream, cry, and violently throw up on Facebook Live after that. I turned it off after I heard her say something along the lines of, "How could you do this to me, outside of my house and with her?" Most satisfying sin I've ever committed in my life. Looking back on it, I can't say I regret getting my lick back, but I would have changed the way I went about getting it back, rather than weaponizing my own body. But goddamn, did it feel so good. I wish I could have screen recorded that live stream. Was I wrong to do that? TLDR. Reminiscing on how a few years ago my serial cheating boyfriend dumped me for an awful girl who went out of her way to bully me and target my race, very confidently asserting how much better than me she was and how I was disgusting and he would never want me. I chose to take revenge by sleeping with him 15 plus times and then publicly exposing non-explicit photos and videos of the acts in order to return the favor and humiliate her, as well as vindicate myself and redeem my self-confidence. At the time it felt great. Now I am not so sure.
OP, while I don't agree that hoeing yourself to your scumbag ex is the best way to get revenge, I do understand your motive. I hope you learned your lesson here. Do not date scumbags, no matter how hot or good they are, and more importantly, don't tolerate disrespect. Viewer support is the best way for me to remain independent and continue bringing you these daily videos, which will always be here on my channels for you to watch absolutely free. So please consider subscribing to me on Rumble and on YouTube. Both will be linked in the description box down below. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you even somewhat enjoyed today's story, make sure to give this video a thumbs up, and if you really like it, consider subscribing to PattSun to never miss a future upload. Stay strong.